you might as well begin with introductions. You've heard me introduce myself, Tim Barclay, the CEO of Appello for the last 4.5 years. I've had that privilege, and very excited about the place we're in as a business at the moment, and that's a big part of what today is all about, to share some of what we've achieved recently and how that has a bearing on our customers and those who are looking to work with us either in the short term or the medium term or even the longer term. I'm joined by a few colleagues, so guys and girls, if you just introduce yourself, starting with you, Mark.
Hi, I'm Mark Stratford. I'm the Commercial Director at Appello. I've been here coming up for 2 years now, so I'm not the new boy anymore. And I'm really excited to be part of the advance in technology that I've seen in the last just 2 years since I've been at Appello. And
then Jill.
Hi there, I'm Jill Atke. I'm the Monitoring Services Director. I've been with Appello coming up for 15 years and been in the industry for around about 17, 18 years. And quite excited about the changes that are occurring with the digital shift.
So definitely not the new boy or the new girl, even for that matter. And then finally, Ian.
Hi all, I'm Head of Marketing. I'm Ian Hockings. I'll be monitoring the questions today, so use the Q&A functionality that you might find at the top of your screen or even the bottom of your screen, and we'll be answering them at the end of the session.
Great stuff. You can pose them all the way through, and we'll wrap them all up at the end. Last time around, we had circa 50 questions, I think it was, because there were so many topics that we touched on that were of interest to people. I don't know whether I want to beat that record this time around or not, but anyway, definitely we've proven in the past that the more interactive it is, the more people get out of it. So please, as Ian says, use the functionality of Zoom, which if after 18 months of COVID you're not yet familiar with, then I'm impressed. Let's show the agenda and talk you through the main topics of today. So we're going to cover an update on SmartConnect, which we will, well, no point me spoiling the surprise. You've had some coverage of that already from previous webinars. We're going to talk about our innovation roadmap, some of the things that we're developing to build on the successes we've had in digital products. We are going to update on some of the activity that Jill and her team are doing in Careline, our monitoring services, and the platform that underpins it. And of course, we are also going to update on one of the things we've been working on that we flagged to you last time around, which is the knowledge base, the Appello knowledge base, and how that helps our customers have greater access to information about the services that they consume from us. Then, as mentioned, Q&A at the end. Just before we move on to SmartConnect, our first topic, I will just point out on the right-hand side there, today's an interesting day for us. We find out this evening whether we have been ultimate winners in categories we've been nominated in. We've been nominated in a number of different categories at the Cloud Excellence Awards and at the Health Investor Award. We will find out, I think it's in October, whether our nomination turns into a final winner. But it's just fantastic that a business our size, and while we're by far the largest digital transformation expert in Telecare, we are definitely a tiny business against some of those that we're up against in the Cloud Excellence Awards. We're up against the NHS's COVID program. We're up against cloud services, global mega organization, Red Hat, and a number of other huge players. So we feel privileged just to have been put in those sorts of categories. The other thing, just while I'm talking about nominations, on our front slide, you may have noticed that we were recently recognized as one of the 50 best companies to work for in technology. Now, given that tech companies usually have quite a fun vibe about them, it's another area that we feel really privileged to have been acknowledged for. So definitely a lot's happened since we last spoke to you, and more of that over the course of the next few slides. Ian, if you move us on, we will touch first of all with a quick video, just reminding the principles of SmartConnect. So as you'll hopefully have been reminded if you were on one of the previous webinars, or if you're seeing it for the first time, SmartConnect is a product which we trailered a few months ago to build on the success of Smart Living Solutions, which is the leading communal digital telecare service in the UK. Smart Living Solutions is now in over 450 communal living retirement environments. Roughly 20,000 end residents have had improved lives as a result of Smart Living Solutions. But we recognise, and from the feedback we've had from housing providers and local authorities, there is also a need for a service which works over existing cabling, as well as having the opportunity to work off brand new in-building wiring. Smart Living Solutions is digital from the room unit all the way to the monitoring centre. No other communal living service is as widely deployed and as end-to-end digital as Smart Living Solutions. And of course, over the 4 years plus that we've been providing it, we've learned an awful lot, a lot more than any organisation, about what it takes to run really successful communal living, British standards compliant solutions in a digital environment. And so we've built those and incorporated those learnings into SmartConnect so that we have an alternative product for those people whose budgets or whose physical constraints within the building mean that they aren't able to put brand new digital Cat5, Cat6 wiring in. So one of the main features of SmartConnect versus Smart Living Solutions, apart from the fact that it doesn't have the value add features like video door entry, like video apartment to apartment calling, etc., one of the other main differentiators is that it's able to work on that existing wiring. The second, I think, really interesting differentiator is that we recognize many centres, many monitoring centres, in fact, almost all of them, aren't currently able to take fully digital calls. So SmartConnect has the capability to be configured as analog signalling or digital signalling until such time as the monitoring centre is able to receive that traffic. Now, we've handled well over 3 million digital telecare calls on our CareNet platform in our Careline monitoring centre. So we think there is no reason whatsoever why you wouldn't want to be with a digital monitoring centre. But if for whatever reason, contractual obligations or otherwise, you still find yourself with a centre whose only capability at the moment is analog, they're waiting for the long promised upgrades, perhaps from their platform provider, that will enable them to go digital. SmartConnect gives you that capability to be able to start off analog if you really must have to, and then transition to digital when your monitoring center is able. Move on to the next slide. A couple of other things that are notable features, as well as the speech unit being, I think, a lot better looking and designed more in keeping with what residents would actually want in their home versus the more common beige plastic or grey plastic box, as well as the aesthetics of it. One of the other things that really separates it out versus some of the other pseudo digital offerings which are out there at the moment is the number of simultaneous calls. As you'll probably be aware, an analog Telecare system can only make one call at a time out of a scheme. So if there's a door call already in progress and somebody pulls their emergency alarm because they're in urgent need of assistance, that call will queue until such time as the door call or the other resident inquiry has been answered by the monitoring centre or the on-site team. Smart Living Solutions gives you a near unlimited number of simultaneous calls, so there is no reason for that call to queue on its way to the monitoring centre. Pseudo systems enable up to 2 simultaneous calls. So if there's a door call, you can have one emergency call, but if there's then another call, that will queue. SmartConnect offers up to 4 simultaneous calls, so offers more safety for residents to avoid the risk that a really important call ends up queuing behind door or other less important resident calls from the apartment to the monitoring centre. Another thing which is a real benefit, I'll get Mark to explain, because it has a bearing on both the level of security and protection, cyber security and protection, but also has a bearing on how much simpler it is to configure this versus other pseudo digital systems that are currently being provided and installed in communal environments, communal retirement environments. So Mark, TLS encryption for our audience, what is that and what does it mean?
So TLS is an industry standard way of transmitting or securely transmitting digital signals. So if we talk to IT teams, the first thing they do is say, okay, are you using TLS? And are you using TLS 1.2 or 1.3? We support both. But what it means is that we can securely transmit data using standard recommended approved protocols across open internet. Now, what that means is we don't need any special connections to send the data. So in some places, what manufacturers will do is they'll use a VPN, a virtual private network, which is essentially a point-to-point connection, which allows you to securely send data. The issue is that if I've got a monitoring centre with 100 schemes or 500 schemes, managing 500 VPNs will be extremely difficult. And if one of them fails, then you're into a problem tracing it, finding out where the problem is. Using TLS encryption means that you're going over open internet with a very secure, widely used protocol.
Thanks, Mark. There are a number of other features and benefits which SmartConnect has. It's been designed as using our digital experience to make sure it is better than other comparable products in terms of the way it operates and the speed at which it operates. But it also has that benefit, as we've mentioned, of being comparable with existing networks and with the familiar features that many residents take for granted, such as an I'm okay function and the calls to house manager and resident. But we've got a little video that just shows those features in a little bit more detail, which we'll now move on to.
Hi everyone, my name is Mark Gordon. I am the Product Development Engineer at Appello. Today I am in one of our test facilities here at Appello, and I will be unveiling and unboxing our new product, which is SmartConnect. The product comes in a nice neat box. Within the box is your quick start guide. And the product itself. It's a very smart looking and sturdy unit. On the side here, you've got the talk button, which will answer all incoming calls, the open button, which will release the door, privacy button, which is the do not disturb, the away button is to inform the manager that you are away from your property, and the I'm OK button, which will inform the staff of your well-being, and the emergency button, which can be activated, as well as being activated on your pendant. I'm really looking forward to testing and developing with this product, and I'll pass you back to the webinar now.
So a couple of things which are worth calling out about that. So Smart Life, which is our dispersed alarm offering, which will be coming later on in this year for trial versions, and we'll touch on that later on, and then into next year for full production versions. It follows a lot of the same design cues, and both units have been designed comparable with the standards which are laid out under the British standards about the size of buttons and so on, as well as the technical specifications. They've also been tested with end users to get real feedback around both the aesthetics and the usability. So we're very excited about that. The other thing that's worth just a second or two's mention is that while most residents won't see the packaging, the quick start guide will be left for them by the installer. And the packaging has been deliberately designed to be low ink, so it's plain packaging, and the internals are recyclable to a large degree, including the plastic cover. So we've taken as much care as we can around the environmental credentials, recognizing that, of course, electronic products are, by their nature, have an environmental impact. We wanted to make sure that the packaging and the production methods, as much as possible, were empathetic to the wider green agenda and the sustainability agenda, which Appello finds so strongly important to support. Now, in terms of some questions which we've had from customers about SmartConnect, the listed here, how will SmartConnect be able to utilize existing cable infrastructure? Mark, you're probably well placed to be able to answer that.
Yeah, so existing cable is typically 8 or 10 cores, and it's configured in twisted pairs. So the cables are, it's a 4 pair if you have 8 cores, or it's a 5 pair if you have 10 cores. Now, what we do is we utilize 2 pairs of cables for all of the digital signals across the bus system. So what it means is that even if the cable is unreliable, if it's 4 pair, we've got 2 spare pairs. If it's 5 pair, we've got 3 spare pairs. And we can use different pairs of cables to transmit the data.
The second question is one which I've got a strong view on, and we've got a strong view on as a company, which is that it would never be our recommendation that existing wiring would be used. Perhaps in a recently built property, it might be acceptable, but ideally, new cabling infrastructure should always be installed. I mean, we're upgrading equipment which is 20, 30, sometimes more than 40 years old. And the notion that you'd reuse the wiring and assume that that could last for another 20, 30, 40 years has to be set fairly foolhardy in our opinion. However, we know that due to a number of different restraints, some financial, some operational, some as a result of leasehold scenarios, it's not always possible to be able to replace the existing wiring. So that is why SmartConnect is interoperable and connected over either or new Cat5 or Cat6 wiring or existing traditional wiring. Next question that's been one that's been posed quite a lot while we've been out and about road showing the product is, will it be able to order? When will it be able to be ordered and installed? So we are taking full delivery in the early part of October, and we already have a number of organizations who've been expressed an interest in having early installations and demonstrations. So if you are one of those, if you have a site which you know needs a digital upgrade imminently, and for whatever reason you don't feel Smart Living Solutions is the right answer for you, then please do get in touch. We are ready to go during the month of October and onwards for both orders and deployments. Next one is in terms of costs. So Mark, you and your team have been working hard on the commercials. Where do you think we're at?
We've been doing quite a bit of financial modelling on this, and the costs are coming out fairly comparable with existing
Hybrid.
That's the word I was looking for. Existing hybrid systems that don't have video with them. So, but this is a full digital system, not a hybrid system, just to make that really clear.
Yeah. So we're happy to price up individual sites. We've got a design team who are ready and able to take either site drawings or to be able to do survey and price turnarounds in reasonably short order. And then just last question, and this is an interesting one that the sales team get posed with a number of different times, which is largely paraphrased as, I've got old kit, but technology is changing all the time. When is the right time to change? And we've got a strong view on this, which is absolutely technology will continue to change and evolve, but the benefits of a digital system versus an analog system are such a step change that the sooner you provide that benefit to your residents, the faster speech time, the lack of the reduction in call queuing from the site. I'm not referring to the monitoring center, I'm just referring to actually getting calls off site. The improved aesthetics to reduce stigmatization. The sooner you start your residents on that journey, the better. There are operational benefits to be realized for organizations, as well as safety and well-being benefits to be enjoyed by the residents. So yeah, of course, technology will continue to change and evolve. But if you spoke to any one of the circa 20,000 people where we've installed Smart Living Solutions over the last few years and asked if they'd have rather waited with their existing system for something potentially better to come along, I would bet a lot of money that the vast majority of them would say, this has been such an improvement in my life, I'm glad it was done now rather than waited. So that I think is a strong view from us, but of course, as an organization, you'll have your own priorities which you need to work through. All I would put out there is that as the leaders in digital telecare transformation, there is nobody better placed than us. And you know, of course, we've got a dog in this fight, but there is nobody better placed than us to be able to guide you on what's available now and how it can benefit your residents and your organization operationally versus what may be available in the future from us or from any other providers. So we talked before about our innovation and our determination to continue to keep providing the best service for our housing providers, our local authorities and their end customers. And that means a continue evolving roadmap. So Mark, you and the CTO team, so the technical team, have been working very closely on what comes next. Do you want to give some of the headlines for our audience, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've already talked about Smart Life. the bit that I just want to get across about Smart Life is we've got the piece there about analog protocols. It's got a PS10 connection. I can plug it in to the PS10 now, use it as an analog unit. It also has a SIM in it. If the analog circuit fails or disappears, somebody puts an alarm code on the system, it will automatically light the SIM up and it will use the SIM. So it takes away that issue of when the digital change comes, how do I unplug my unit and change it? So I just wanted to pick that up on the Smart Life.
And Mark, I think that's a really important point, because Smart Life is a dispersed alarm, and that is a fairly unique capability amongst dispersed alarms, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we've got two problems with the digital switchover: the problem of transmitting analog signals. But the first problem that everybody's kind of just getting to grips with is, at some stage, my analog circuit will stop working. So it'll stop. So and if my customer doesn't know that and the system's still plugged in, if it's an analog unit, somebody puts a call on it, and I've been changed to a digital circuit, it just won't work.
And the reason that's so important is that although 2025 is the official end of the closure program, that is not when the one day all analog lines go dead. They will be being turned off over the course of the next few years in a rolling phase. There are already some exchanges in the UK which are now only available digitally, and that is going to continue. That's why we're seeing the increases in first-time call failure from analog devices that we are. So it's very important to have this understanding, firstly, that it isn't just everything works brilliantly till 2025 December and then it stops working. It will stop working at different parts of the UK at a different pace, and therefore having a device which automatically recognizes when an analog signal is no longer available and has an alternative digital communication mechanism is really important from a safety, a well-being and a peace of mind perspective. And that's why we're so excited about Smart Life and our introduction of that over the course of the months ahead. Sorry, Mark, I stole your thunder a little bit, but it's an area I'm so passionate about.
It really matters, and it's the bit that people forget about too, I think.
Yeah.
So the next thing is a pendant. Now, we work very much with our colleagues at Care, supplying Care pendants and a lot of other Care peripherals, and we support all of the Care protocols. The reason for the pendant really was twofold. One, the whole world's been experiencing supply problems, and pendants are one of the piece of equipment that has an issue getting the components for the equipment, so we can alleviate some of those supply problems. And the other piece really was we've developed an open radio protocol. Now, we already said that on Smart Life we will support Tunstall peripherals, we support Care peripherals, and we hope to open that up to other manufacturers too. What we've also done is developed a radio protocol that we will open up for other people if they want to use it. What this does is it allows us to work with Care on the open radio protocol issues going forward as well. So that's the reason for that. The next one is a Call Manager app. So if I'm talking about hardwired equipment, whether it's Smart Living Solutions or whether it's SmartConnect, the way that the on-site staff communicate is they use DECT, a radio infrastructure with a telephone handset, which is starting to get older. DECT's a relatively old technology. So what we will be doing very soon is replacing DECT for on-site staff with a smartphone app. That means that our on-site teams can receive on-site calls from anywhere. So they don't have to be on site. They can be away from site. They can still be allocated to that site. It also means that multiple sites can go to multiple people, or multiple people can manage one site. So this is configurable in the cloud service. So what it means is if I'm a site manager and I look after 2 sites, I can be on site for both sites, even though I'm at one or the other, or even if I'm at home. But it means that I can still do my job wherever I am. It still means I can make my call rounds, I can call out to my out to my residents. But putting this into an app then means I can have more information. So it means as a site manager, when I get a call, if there's some calls history that maybe went through to the monitoring centre, I can see that calls history. If there's some basic notes I want to make, I can make basic notes. Just on my smartphone, it's not huge, it's nothing special, but what it does mean is it gives me more and more information all the time, and it allows me as a site manager to update that information and have more information when I get the call. So a lot more flexibility, a lot more powerful proposition, we believe, and that will be available very soon in next year. The next piece of equipment we've got coming out is a more advanced pendant. So a couple of things here. This is two-way radio. Now, what two-way radio means is that if I press the pendant sends a signal to my dispersed alarm or my alarm unit to say, I need to raise an alarm call. It then means that the unit sends a confirmation back to the pendant. So, for example, I can press the button and the light on my pendant will go red. Once the unit has seen the trigger and activate an alarm, it will tell the pendant that the pendant will go green. So the pendant knows that a call has been placed. And it gives us things like presence, battery status, lots of other stuff that we can do with cloud services. This pendant also has built-in fall detection, which is switchable. So what that means is this could be a pendant. It can be a pendant and a fall detector, or it can just be a fall detector. It supports multiple radio protocols. So that's Appello Open Protocol and Care Protocol. But it means that then from a device management platform, I can decide what functionality I want that pendant to have, and I can change it as the needs of the user change. The next one for me is it's more of a question. We're looking at a PERS alarm, so a mobile unit that works away from the home. It's got a SIM in it, Bluetooth connectivity for a trigger, two-way speech, GPS positioning. Now, we haven't started the market testing yet, so I'm really keen to understand from anybody that's part of this webinar, if you think that would be interesting. If you do, please let your salespeople know, or please let me or Tim know. We'd be really keen to hear from you. And if it does become a market requirement, we're really happy to kind of work on that piece of equipment and develop a PERS alarm. The next thing for the second half really of next year is our Android tablet alarm. Now this is a tablet, probably at least a 10-inch screen, tablet dispersed alarm. So 24-hour battery backup, signals escape, signals now IP, has Bluetooth connectivity, has Wi-Fi connectivity, can be used as a tablet device. So it gives us browser ability, it gives us the ability to put apps and connections on. It has a camera on it. So this is a high-end dispersed alarm, but with video, really clear video. But the other thing that it will happen for us is that this can be a switchable unit. So because all of our outfield equipment is powered by our cloud services, it means that this unit can be a dispersed alarm. It's got a SIM in it, it's got Wi-Fi connectivity, or it can be an Android room unit. So if I have a smart living solution site with bungalows or with remote dwellings, I can put this room unit into those remote dwellings, and I can make the remote room unit part of the scheme. So it will act as a hardwired room unit via the SIM and via the cloud services. I'm quite excited for this to come along.
We looked at partnering with a number of organisations who've developed products which are starting to be marketed in the UK as video capable units for the home. The snag with all of the ones we've seen so far is that they are not British standards compliant, so they do not meet the Telecare industry specifications. So we remain open to partnerships and collaborations, but if we don't find over the next couple of weeks or so an alternative, we are going to continue this path, I think, of developing our own, because we think it's so important that it not only has that functionality of being a dispersed video alarm, but it also has the compliance with British standards that you've come to expect. Mark, just a couple of seconds on the last one, and then let's move on.
So very quickly, because I talk a lot. We've got a new platform coming through. So CareNet is our monitoring centre platform. We have a new monitoring centre platform which has been developed for first half of next year. All of our customers that use our CareNet platform will automatically be upgraded free of charge, and will get all the new functionality and be able to use a new platform straight away. We've got improved I/O, so that's the integration engine, allowing faster integrations. So it means we can integrate with more third-party pieces of equipment. Probably the next big one for me is a dispersed alarm device management platform. So this is a really clear, really easy to use management platform for our digital dispersed alarms, which allows you to remotely program multiple units at the same time, program over-the-air upgrades, send upgrades, program equipment, program peripherals to the unit. So you can program a new peripheral, post it out, all this kind of work, but in a really clear, easy to use fashion. And the last thing is the bridge. I've spoken to everybody I've ever talked to about the Appello bridge, and it also now allows analog transmission. So we can take digital calls into the bridge, and for legacy monitoring centres, we can send analog calls. I'll hand back to Tim now.
Thank you. So the digital bridge is two-way now. We can either do analog to digital, or we can do digital to analog, depending on whatever your requirement is. So just do get in touch. You can't have failed to have noticed that the world has been changing as a result of COVID, and hybrid working and so on has become a major thing. We've seen the start of a change through the government's white paper in attitudes towards combining social care and primary care, and we're gearing ourselves up very much to capitalize on those transitions as and when they become more material. If we move on to the next slide, we'll give an example of that, which is what Mark trailered just a few moments ago, which is the evolution of CareNet, the UK's leading call digital monitoring platform. Regular viewers and readers may remember that pre-COVID, we were awarded Best Use of Technology at the UK Contact Centre Forum Awards for CareNet. And in our view of never standing still, we are taking a number of the elements of it and building those entirely new from scratch in an entirely new cloud environment to give them more flexibility, more scalability, more features and more usability, as well as, importantly, more resilience. We know that we and every other monitoring centre in the UK has from time to time had our challenges with resilience and reliability due to any number of factors. The industry protocols don't lend themselves well to perfect reliability. So creating a new platform entirely featured around digital and analog legacy capabilities gives us a platform for real innovation and continued leadership in the digital telecare space. In the meantime, of course, what we need to do is keep adapting to changes that we see amongst our customers and those organizations such as the emergency services that we work with. And Jill and her team have been very, very busy over those last few months, adapting to some of the dynamics that we've seen in the market. Jill, do you want to give us a flavour, please?
Yeah, sure. So myself and the team, we've been working with the East of England ambulance service alongside ACE. We have been trialling the use of conference calling from the platform, and what I mean by that is conference calling in the user into the 999 ambulance operator. And the reason for that is to allow them to successfully triage the call and get the correct category ambulance out, which will then reduce further follow-up calls to ensure that the ambulance has turned up within a agreed specified time. When we first rolled it out, we were doing conference calling on nearly every single call, and unfortunately the ambulance were using the conference calling and tying up my operators for anywhere between 15 and 40 minutes, so it wasn't being used in the right vein. So we took a step back and have, as I say, trialled this purely with East of England, and what we're doing is East of England are actually asking us, dependent on the scenario, they're asking us if we can conference them in, and that's allowing them to categorize the call effectively and get the right ambulance response out to them. So that's working well. It's been picked up in particularly with fallers who cannot get to the phone, because as we all know, the ambulance do like to call the patient back. And if we have a faller on the floor, obviously they can't get to the telephone. So it does come in extremely handy in particular scenarios. The other thing that we've been working on is our remote working. So we have successfully deployed home working throughout COVID. We now have a 60-40 split of staff working from home, doing a hybrid role and working in the office. What that means for us is that we have really used and developed our training through the ability of our remote observe on our CareNet platform, which has allowed us to successfully support our home workers. What that's also done for us is it's reduced infection rates, particularly within our cohort of staff who have long-term health conditions. And those particular staff have made the decision to work from home permanently. That fits with them, and we've seen a reduction in their sickness levels through doing that, which is great. And we've also rolled out national recruitment across the UK. So we now have operators up in Falkirk in Scotland and down in Kent in England. So we are managing to spread our wings across the UK. We've also developed one of our coaches has developed a home working survey to ensure that we are engaging with our home workers effectively. And I'm really pleased to say that as a first blush, 86% of our home workers have said that they are being successfly supported, and the 14% that were on the shelf, were on the fence, sorry, we've spoken to them personally to find out what their challenges were, and we've turned those around. So we've taken back the feedback on what some of the challenges were. Some of it was around training and speed of training, and some of it was about speed of response to support when they required it, when they were call handling, which we have put new processes in place for.
Thanks, Jill. Probably just worth the context of the work with the ambulance service is in the backdrop of, I'm sure many of you will have seen this, the significant amount of pressure the emergency services are under in terms of their queues. So the reason we've been an ambassador for and one of the leading UK centres for working with the ambulance services is to try and help them, help us, help our end customers to have a better, more responsive service. So currently it could take anywhere up to 7 or 8 hours to get somebody picked up off the floor, depending on what level of emergency both the ambulance services are under at the time and the degree of emergency they assign to urgency they assign to that particular individual. So the conference calling initiative, which Jill outlined, is all about trying to get the right categorization and the earliest possible resolution for people, which is why we've been one of the very first centres to pilot this and trial this with the ambulance services. Any more feedback we have on the way our customers can help us help their customers, we'll be sure to feed out to you. Ian, there were just a couple of other quick things that we wanted to cover before we move over to Q&A.
Yeah, so the last area that we wanted to update you on was the knowledge base. We're very keen to support our customers on their digital journey, and we do this in a number of ways, and the knowledge base has been one of those ways for the last few years. This summer, though, we updated it so that we could create a more accessible platform, a platform that could host more materials and things like videos. So at the moment, the knowledge base is available to all of our customers with any of our SmartTEC products. So that's Smart Living Solutions, SmartConnect, or soon to be Smart Life. It holds videos, user guides, and we provide them user guides in a printed format as well, but we're fully aware that they go missing over time. It has other features such as FAQs and even just who to contact and in what scenario to contact different people. So that's available to all of our customers at the moment. We have a short video which explains to our customers how to navigate that platform, and I thought it would be useful to share that with you just for a few seconds.
Welcome to the Appello KnowledgeBase, where you will find everything you need to know to assist you with your new digital product. Firstly, scroll down the left-hand menu to locate your product. In each space, there are a variety of different posts, which you can see by scrolling down the page or on the pinned posts section. These posts include videos, checklists, guides, and much more for you to learn about your product.
So that video is available on our YouTube channel if you want to watch all of it, but it gives you a flavour of what the knowledge base looks like. The feedback we've had has been really positive to date. So we are actually developing a new version, which is a slightly slimmed down version for residents to use. And we're currently trialling that with a few customers. And over the course of the remainder of the year and into next year, we're developing a version for our care line service as well, which will hold things such as procedures, how the service works, who to contact, and much more information. If you want to access any of the knowledge bases, obviously send us an email at marketing@Appello, and we'll be happy to give you access.
Great stuff. Thank you, Ian. And I can already see them queuing up. We've got an amount of questions to work our way through, and more coming in as we go. So Ian, if you can start to moderate those for us, myself and Mark will do our best to be crisp. Well, and Jill, actually, assuming that some of them may be monitoring as well.
Okay, so the first question that we have is there a management platform for SmartConnect?
The answer is yes. HQ, which is the management platform we use for Smart Living Solutions, has been really successful, and so we've mirrored that for SmartConnect, and there's demos of it on both on our web, but also on the YouTube channel that Ian referred to earlier.
Next question is, and we're going back to the roadmap. Will the app be a free upgrade when replacing DECT?
Mark?
No, it won't be a free upgrade. So what will happen in the future is there'll be an option to retrofit the app, and we'll give you a really good price for that. Going forward with new installations, then DECT will be an option, but the app will be a standard installation.
We touched on some of this earlier, but can we give an upgrade on the telecoms network upgrade and the impact on services?
So an update on that. We follow all of the BT announcements. If you're not already on Openreach's briefings, then I strongly advocate you sign up to those, and you can do that via Openreach's website. The 2025 date, as I mentioned before, is still set in stone, and progress is being made with new exchanges being announced pretty much, it seems like every month at the moment, where stop sell of analog services and or new digital services are being transitioned. So definitely make yourself familiar by getting onto the onto the newsletters and updates that Openreach send out. But yes, it seems to be proceeding at greater and greater pace. And I know we touched on this before, but one of the things that is probably the single most important thing to remember about that digital transition is that because 2025 is the end, doesn't mean everything works brilliantly up until then. We're seeing increased first-time call failure. We're seeing parts of the country. So we did an exercise with one of our customers in a particular region, Lincolnshire, where first-time call failure for some of their devices was up to roughly 30%. And we installed the Appello Digital Bridge on their behalf and slashed that to less than 1% first-time call failure rate. So it is going to get worse and worse. And I strongly advocate that you look earlier rather than later at that digital transition to avoid the first-time call failure risk, as well as get the benefits of digital services earlier. Next question, Ian.
One for Mark, I believe. Why would manufacturers not use TLS to encrypt data on an open internet connection? Surely it allows no cost voice over IP calls. It just makes sense.
Yeah, a really good question, Mark. Why would they do that?
It is absolutely beyond me why you wouldn't. Yeah, it's quite right. So
unless you couldn't work out how to make it work.
Yeah, it's voice over IP, it's industry standard encryption, and it's widely accepted across the world.
So one can only draw the conclusion that they haven't worked out how to make it work would be the only thing I could guess.
Next question is, will this presentation be made available actually after the call? So yes, the webinar will be available on our YouTube channel and sent out to everybody who's watched this post-event.
And all of our previous webinars are still up as well, I guess?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
What are your future developments to smart living solutions?
Voice recognition already being piloted and selectively tested, and this is voice recognition for a very narrow channel, so not the whole Alexa spectrum of vocabulary. This is just about being able to get help, and testing on that looks good so far. We've introduced facial recognition to the door panels, as well as temperature recognition to help with COVID similar concerns. Wi-Fi hotspot capability being rolled out, and we're looking to embed a number of new features as well, which we are just waiting for the manufacturer to confirm success on, and then we'll announce later on this year. So a busy schedule for Smart Living Solutions, continuing to lead the way in digital telecare in the UK.
Next question is, do you think the largest manufacturer of analog equipment is slowing down the move to digital because their products are not digital yet? And that's been asked a couple of times.
and do you know what? I absolutely bet none of those are the first time that question's been asked in any meeting or any webinar anywhere. Everywhere I go, any type of industry session I'm at, the same speculation is poised, and it's not for us to comment on other competitors of ours. The only thing I will say is that the best services for customers and their customers are delivered through digital services, and if you don't have the capability technically to do that, then shame on you.
Brilliant. When Appello say that Smart Life is interoperable with other manufacturers' Telecare devices, are you saying the Telecare devices can all work at the same time?
Mark, do you want to explain what we mean by interoperability and what we don't mean?
Yes, absolutely. So on Smart Life, we can support simultaneous different manufacturers' radio protocols. So what that means is, if I have a Appello pendant, a Care fall detector, and a tungsten smoke detector. They will all work at the same time on the same unit.
Hopefully that answers the question. There's a wider point about interoperability, which is that we have deliberately used industry common standards, industry common protocols. We are interoperable with any number of IoT devices from any number of different manufacturers. So our approach is to try and encourage best in breed wherever it possibly may exist. But we recognize that sometimes there is already installed a variety of legacy equipment, and to the best degree that we can, we want to avoid the environmental and cost carnage of having to throw that stuff away. So being interoperable with as much existing technology as possible is part and parcel of our vision.
Next question is commenting on some of the supply chain issues in the market and asking how can we be confident about our supply chain, and they've experienced up to 8 weeks of delays.
It's rough out there. I mean, you don't have to read the news too many days without hearing about different industries and different sectors which are struggling with any permeation of the electrical supply, queues at ports because of Brexit, shortage of labour in van and lorry drivers. There is an amount of absolute mayhem in the supply chain. And broadly, the way we can be confident that we can support our customers is through two things. One is sad, but it's about throwing money at it. So we've currently got about 13 weeks more stock than we'd budgeted to hold or expected to hold. So we have been advanced buying as much equipment as we possibly can. Doesn't mean we've managed to mitigate every single challenge, but it means we've mitigated a lot of them. So that's the first thing that helps you be confident that you can rely on Appello to supply you. The second thing that we've been doing is broadening our supply chain. So we source goods from as near as the UK and as far afield as China and beyond, and trying to implement dual or triple supply chain resilience for each product, or each component of each wider product sometimes, is what's given us a reasonable amount of confidence. And of course, that doesn't mean everything's within our control, but a reasonable amount of confidence that our supply for smart living solutions, for SmartConnect, and when it goes live in 2022, Smart Life will be uninterrupted or as smooth as possible. We did mention before, but just to plug in again, we will have pilot devices for Smart Life, the dispersed alarm, available to selected customers, and I think we had about 40 register after the last webinar. So I think all of those have been earmarked for devices. So yes, we are as confident as you can be, but it is absolutely a difficult time out there. And although this sounds quite self-serving, it's stating the obvious that the earlier you order, the sooner you guarantee your supply. Prices are only going in one direction. Supply is only getting more and more tricky. So I would strongly commend placing an order for whatever you need earlier rather than later. Ian?
Next question is, with all the new digital technology, including SLS, there's a significant amount more data being collected. Are Appello looking at how they can produce reporting for customers around this data?
A really, really good question. And data's on a lot of different levels. At a basic level, HQ, which one of the other questions referred to earlier on, or the answer is HQ, is our data repository for a lot of different levels. We provide reporting, day-to-day access to that, even remote access to that for house managers to enable them to be more productive. At a macro level, we've introduced a capability called IO, which is a data architecture which enables inputs from a variety of different devices to be able to create it into a well-being index. And Ian, it's probably worth us doing a small slot on that at our next one of these webinars, because we really do believe that providing as much data back to customers to enable them to make decisions is the right way forward. Just as a personal point of view, from an Appello perspective, there is a great deal said about machine learning and AI. I think it is many, many years before clinicians will want devices and data sets to make decisions for them. Our view is that deviation analysis, i.e. changes in patterns, and insight and access to data is what housing providers and local authorities and clinicians will ultimately, well, will in the short and medium term prefer, rather than having somebody tell them or predict what they think an outcome is going to be, and therefore put a burden of responsibility onto somebody to do something about it. A really interesting area. The one thing I would just wrap up with on data is that the thing that is the most important is making sure it is secure. And as Mark mentioned, with TLS, with the encryption that we provide, as well as the way we host and protect data, we really do understand that responsibility. Data, as you rightly point out, is only going to grow. We do believe we will be able to provide more and more of it. If you think there is a particular application where greater data insights would help you and your teams and your customers be more productive and live better lives, then we're very, very much on the forefront of trying to help that happen.
We have a couple of last questions. So if anyone doesn't want to ask a question, please use the Q&A functionality now. Will the Alexa type voice control allow for multiple languages?
So that's a great question. And the answer is yes, it will. But again, it's only for a very, very selected number of words. It would probably be one Q word, which we're yet to work, but probably help. And it will be only in to begin with, a relatively small number of common languages. So we can't claim to support every single language variant.
Next question, I think for Mark. Are you confident with the durability of the Care pendant?
Yeah, absolutely. To be honest, they're the best pendants that we've come across. They're well made, they're durable, they're really good pendants.
Brilliant. And our final question is there a supplier list of products, digital and analog, which and what protocols they communicate over, that is available anywhere? And do you think the TSA should produce one?
So what's the use case for that? So what devices signal what protocols? I'm not aware of such a list. It would be if you want to let us know what your use case for that is, i.e. how it helps you, we're happy to look at whether or not we could architect such an amount of information. I think we're very happy to try and help if we possibly can. And as an industry body, I'm certain the TSA probably already has a good level of insight into that, but whether or not they provide it at a product by product breakdown, I very much doubt.
Brilliant. That wraps up all our questions, Tim.
Well done. Folks, thank you very, very much for your time. I hope you found it a good use of the last hour or so. If there's anything you particularly want to follow up on, then you know how to find us through the email address, which has been part of the invites that you've been receiving, or just send it to marketing@appello.co.uk or tim.barclay@appello.co.uk, and we'll be very happy to help. Thanks again for your time and attendance. Any and all feedback about topics you'd be interested in the future is very, very welcome. And we look forward very much to seeing you and working with you over the weeks, months, and time ahead. Thanks again. Cheers.
All right.